66 million years ago, Earth was shaken by a massive asteroid impact. Dinosaurs, once the rulers of the land, gave way to a new era. From the shadows of devastation, mammals emerged and evolved into giants unlike anything before. No longer reptiles, but creatures with fur, fangs, and astonishing power. These were the ones that became the new masters of the planet after the dinosaurs. Imagine Earth in the days right after the fury of the giant asteroid struck. Dark skies lingered for months, even years. Fine dust and hot ash rising from the colossal impact site on the Yucatan Peninsula blocked the light of the sun. Global temperatures plummeted, many plants withered, and ecosystems nearly collapsed. The oceans, once teeming with life, also suffered violent upheaval as acid rain from the atmosphere changed the chemistry of the water. It was a time of chaos, wiping out life on a massive scale. Yet amid the desolation, small, seemingly fragile creatures quietly survived. These were primitive mammals, most no larger than mice, weasels, or rabbits. Before, they lived in the shadows under the dominance of dinosaurs, forced to hide to avoid becoming prey. But now, with the giants gone, a vacuum of power opened in the food chain. And that opportunity unlocked the door to an unprecedented evolutionary explosion. At first, Earth in the Paleocene, about 66 to 56 million years ago, looked like an entirely new planet. Once the climate stabilized, it became warmer and wetter. Tropical forests spread almost everywhere, covering regions that today are dry and barren. In North America, Europe, and Asia, dense forests stretched continuously, forming endless green corridors. In South America, lush rainforests flourished. And in the Arctic, once frozen, a warmer environment appeared, with trees growing, and even crocodiles and turtles thriving. In this new natural landscape, mammals began a remarkable evolutionary journey. From tiny creatures, they gradually diversified in both shape and size. Some became massive herbivores, adapted to consuming huge amounts of vegetation. Others evolved into fierce predators, taking the place of the once dominant carnivorous dinosaurs. And still others ventured into the waters, turning the oceans into their new frontier. Interestingly, this age was not without dangerous predators. Though dinosaurs were gone, other ancient reptiles like crocodiles and giant turtles still survived and thrived. They were formidable rivals for the first mammals, daring to claim the path of dominance. A key to understanding this evolutionary explosion lies in the biological advantages of mammals. Unlike reptiles, mammals are warm-blooded, meaning they can regulate their body temperature and survive in diverse, often harsh environments. They also had larger brains, greater care for their young, and flexibility in diet. These advantages allowed them to exploit every remaining resource on Earth. Within just a few million years, Earth witnessed a dramatic transformation. The dense forests covering continents became ideal environments for countless species. Rodents, primitive primates, and ancient hoofed mammals began to spread across the continents. This was the beginning of an era in which mammals steadily rose to dominate the planet. After the dinosaurs vanished and Earth entered the Paleocene and Eocene, nature seemed to have been given a chance to write an entirely new chapter. Small mammals that once lived quietly in the shadows were no longer confined. With no towering rulers above them, they began filling ecological gaps, evolving into giants with strange and unbelievable forms. This was the age when the new kings appeared, marking a great turning point in the history of life. One of the most striking and impressive mammals was Andrewsarchus, which appeared around 45 to 36 million years ago in what is now Mongolia and China. With a skull over 31 inches long and a body reaching up to 13 feet, Andrewsarchus is considered the largest land-dwelling carnivorous mammal ever known. Picture a creature with a body somewhat like a giant wolf, yet the size of a small car. Strangely, Andrewsarchus did not belong to the cat, dog, or bear families we know today, but was more closely related to even-toed ungulates like sheep, goats, or even whales. This unusual mix has long fueled scientific debate over how to classify the animal. With sharp teeth, a powerful skull, and a keen sense of smell, Andrewsarchus could crush bones or scavenge carcasses when necessary. It was the apex predator, occupying the role once held by the great meat-eating dinosaurs. If Andrewsarchus was the nightmare of the Eocene, then Indricotherium, also known as Paraceratherium, was the defining giant herbivore. Appearing about 34 to 23 million years ago, Indricotherium was the largest land mammal to ever walk the Earth. It could stand up to 16 feet tall at the shoulder, stretch over 26 feet in length, and weigh around 15 to 20 tons, even larger than today's African elephant. Indricotherium was a distant relative of the rhinoceros, but it had no horn. With its long neck, it could reach tall treetops to browse leaves, much like modern giraffes do. Its colossal body left it with virtually no natural enemies, except for groups of predators working together or harsh shifts in climate. One can imagine that if Indricotherium still roamed today, the sight of it striding across the plains would make elephants look small. Among the strangest creatures, Entelodon is an unforgettable name. It was a distant relative of pigs, but far larger, about 6.5 feet long, weighing over 880 pounds, with an enormous skull and sharp teeth. Appearing about 37 to 29 million years ago, Entelodon earned the chilling nickname Hell Pig. Unlike the relatively docile pigs of today, Entelodon was a fiercely aggressive omnivore. They could hunt, scavenge, and even attack animals much larger than themselves. Their long, powerful legs allowed them to move swiftly across the plains, making them formidable predators. In the ancient ecosystem, Entelodon was truly a force to be reckoned with, a creature that even large mammals had to fear. Beyond these well-known giants, evolution also produced creatures that seemed born from pure imagination. Uintatherium, which lived about 37 to 50 million years ago in North America, is a prime example. This giant herbivore could grow up to 13 feet long and weigh over 2 tons, with an appearance that astonished scientists. Its skull sprouted 6 large bony knobs resembling small horns, along with massive saber-like canine teeth jutting from its lower jaw. Despite its fearsome look, Uintatherium was a plant eater, feeding on leaves and soft vegetation. Scientists believe the bizarre bony knobs may have been used for communication or for males to compete during mating season, similar to how deer use antlers today. The image of Uintatherium highlights the unusual diversity of early mammals, a time when nature experimented with countless forms before settling on the ones that would endure. The most striking feature of this era was not only the rise of colossal animals, but also diversity itself. Within just 20 million years, mammals had branched into hundreds of evolutionary lines. Some adapted to aquatic life, paving the way for whales. Some took to the skies like bats. And others evolved into massive carnivores, fully replacing the role of predatory dinosaurs. This diversity ensured that despite climate upheavals and geological change, mammals maintained their dominance. Giants such as Andrewsarchus, Indricotherium, or Uintatherium are just a few iconic examples, but they represent nature's endless creativity in filling the void of power. At the time, if an intelligent being had observed Earth, it might have believed that these giants would last forever. But evolutionary history always holds surprises. As time passed, a new age was preparing to unfold, one where the gentle giants of the Ice Age would write the next chapter. If in the Paleocene and Eocene, Earth saw strange and fearsome beasts like Andrewsarchus or Entelodon. Then by the Ice Age, specifically the Pleistocene, about 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago, nature offered a very different world. This was the era when many mammals reached gigantic sizes, but most of them were peaceful herbivores. These creatures lived alongside early humans, leaving deep marks on imagination and cultural memory. One of the most impressive animals of the Ice Age was Megatherium, the giant ground sloth. In stark contrast to the small, slow tree sloths of today's rainforests, Megatherium was a true colossus. It could reach nearly 20 feet tall when standing on its hind legs, weighing up to 4 tons, nearly the size of an adult African elephant. Megatherium lived mainly in South America, especially in the lands that are now Argentina. With its long claws, it could hook branches and pull down high leaves to eat. Though a herbivore, its massive body and fearsome claws made it a dangerous opponent if threatened. A single swipe from Megatherium's claws could drive away predators like big cats or giant wolves. The existence of Megatherium inspired many myths among South America's indigenous peoples. European explorers even heard tales of giant beasts still roaming the forests, with some stories suggesting they may have survived longer than science currently believes. When speaking of the Ice Age, the most iconic name is surely the mammoth, especially the woolly mammoth. These animals were as large or larger than modern elephants, standing over 13 feet tall and weighing up to 6 tons. Their defining traits were the thick, shaggy coats that kept them warm in the freezing cold, and their long, curved tusks that could reach 16 feet. Mammoths once roamed the vast icy grasslands of North America, Europe, and Asia. They provided food, clothing, and even tools for early humans. Cave paintings in Europe preserved their images, evidence that humans hunted, observed, and lived alongside them for tens of thousands of years. Interestingly, not all mammoths disappeared 10,000 years ago. A small population of mammoths survived on Wrangel Island, off the coast of Siberia, until about 4,000 years ago, meaning that while the Egyptians were already building pyramids, mammoths still roamed the earth. This fact always surprises older audiences, as it reveals a world where creatures that feel almost mythical actually coexisted with human civilization. Before mammoths rose to fame, another giant ruled North America, the Mastodon. They were relatives of elephants, but appeared earlier and looked different. Mastodons were shorter than mammoths, with stocky builds, thick coats of fur, and molars adapted to chewing branches and forest leaves instead of grass from open plains. They once ranged widely across North America, from the icy lands of Canada to the tropical regions of Central America. Like mammoths, they left deep marks in indigenous cultures and were an important food source for hunter-gatherer tribes. Fossil discoveries of mastodons with cut marks from stone tools show that humans hunted these giants, contributing to their disappearance. Beyond elephants and giant sloths, South America was also home to another gentle monster, Glyptodon, the gigantic ancestor of today's armadillos. Glyptodon grew over 10 feet long, weighed nearly 1 ton, and carried an enormous shell as thick as armor. While modern armadillos can curl up for defense, Glyptodon had no need. Its heavy shell alone was enough to ward off most predators. It is believed that ancient tribes even used Glyptodon shells as makeshift shelters or roofs. This image is both fascinating and a reminder of the unique relationship between early humans and the giants of the Ice Age. The greatest difference between Ice Age giants and those of earlier eras lies in their closeness in time to humans. While Andrewsarchus or Indricotherium vanished tens of millions of years before Homo sapiens appeared, mammoths, mastodons, Megatherium and Glyptodon lived side by side with our ancestors. As a result, they are not only distant fossils, but also figures deeply imprinted in art, myths, and folklore. Ancient people hunted them, carved them on cave walls, and likely told stories of them around campfires. This makes them a unique bridge between the prehistoric world and modern humanity. Though powerful and massive, most Ice Age giants eventually vanished. Scientists believe a combination of climate change, as glaciers melted and grasslands shrank, and hunting pressure from early humans were the main causes. This is one of the clearest examples of how human existence directly affected natural balance, helping to end the age of the gentle giants. If mammoths, Megatherium and Glyptodon were peaceful giants dominating the plains and forests of the Ice Age, then alongside them, nature also produced gigantic predators. These were the true nightmares of herbivores and even of early humans. With saber-like teeth, powerful jaws and overwhelming strength, they stood at the top of the food chain, feared by all. No predator of the Ice Age is more famous than Smilodon, often called the saber-toothed cat. Appearing in the Americas more than 2.5 million years ago, Smilodon was one of the most iconic predators of prehistory. It was a large animal, standing chest-high to an adult human and weighing between 440 and 880 pounds, nearly twice as heavy as a modern lion. But its defining feature was a pair of saber teeth up to 8 to 10 inches long, sharp as daggers. With a single precise bite, Smilodon could pierce the windpipe or major blood vessels of its prey, bringing them down within seconds. Interestingly, Smilodon was not a fast runner like cheetahs or a tireless chaser like wolves. With its heavy build, it relied on sheer strength and pack cooperation to subdue prey. Fossils from the La Brea tar pits in California show that Smilodon lived in large groups, hunting giant animals such as bison, wild horses, and even young mammoths. Before Smilodon appeared, another predator giant once dominated, Amphition, often called the bear dog. Living between 16 and 9 million years ago, Amphition combined features of both dogs and bears, with a muscular frame, long legs and sharp teeth. Their sizes varied greatly, from wolf-sized species to giants weighing up to 1,300 pounds. Amphition was a versatile predator. It could chase prey across open plains and was powerful enough to bring down large animals with a single killing bite. Fossil evidence shows Amphition once ranged across North America, Europe, and Asia. They were undisputed rulers of their ecosystems until climate shifts and the rise of big cats changed the balance. If Smilodon was the elegant killer, then Hyenodon deserves the title of brutal destroyer. Appearing about 42 to 15 million years ago, Hyenodon was unrelated to either dogs or cats, but belonged to its own now extinct lineage of carnivores. With a skull nearly 3 feet long and jaws specialized for crushing bone, Hyenodon could kill large prey with devastating bites. Some giant species grew over 8 feet long and weighed about 1,100 pounds, larger than a modern male lion. Unlike Smilodon, Hyenodon hunted alone. They ambushed prey at close range using raw muscle power to wrestle victims to the ground. Scientists often describe Hyenodon as nature's sledgehammer, not graceful, not refined, but terrifyingly effective. In popular imagination, dire wolves, Canis dirus, are tied to legend and modern culture. But in reality, they truly existed and were among the most fearsome predators of the Ice Age. Dire wolves were about 25% larger than modern grey wolves, weighing on average 150 to 175 pounds, with some individuals exceeding 200 pounds. They lived in large packs, hunting giant prey such as wild horses, bison, and even young mammoths. Their pack lifestyle made them a serious threat not only to herbivores but also to early humans. At the La Brea tar pits, thousands of dire wolf fossils have been discovered, showing that they were once widespread and dominant across North America. The disappearance of their large prey, combined with fierce competition, drove them to extinction, yet the image of the giant wolf endures in human culture, from indigenous legends to modern works of fiction. Looking at the big picture, we see that the Ice Age was not only the world of gentle giants like mammoths or Megatherium, but also a brutal battlefield where giant predators roamed. This was an age where every day could be a fight for survival. On one side, vast herds of herbivores wandering in search of food. On the other, stealthy killers ready to strike with a fatal bite. Early humans, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, also lived in this dangerous world. When facing Smilodon or direwolves, fragile humans had to rely on intelligence, crude weapons, and solidarity. It could be said that the pressure from these giant predators helped shape the cultural and social evolution of humankind. But just like the gentle giants, most of the great predators ultimately vanished by the end of the Ice Age. The causes are believed to be a combination of climate change, the decline of large prey populations, and competition with humans. For tens of millions of years, giant mammals, from the peaceful Indricotherium to the bloodthirsty Smilodon, dominated the planet. They ruled the grasslands, jungles, and frozen tundras, embodying the raw power of nature. Yet in the end, almost all of them disappeared. The question is, why could such mighty creatures, once rulers of ecosystems, not endure? One of the key reasons is that Earth's climate has always been in flux. During the Ice Age, the planet went through alternating cycles of warming and cooling. When the glaciers expanded, icy grasslands rich in grasses appeared, providing the perfect habitat for mammoths, bison, and megatherium. But when the climate warmed, ice melted, forests spread, and specialized grazers lost their main food supply. For example, mammoths and other large herbivores depended on vast steppe grasslands. When these vanished, they could not adapt quickly to the dense forest environment. The decline in suitable plants led to shrinking populations, leaving them more vulnerable than ever. Climate change not only reduced food sources, but also transformed habitats. Predators like Smilodon and direwolves lost their large prey as herbivore giants went extinct. Without abundant food, they too faced extinction. If climate was the natural cause, then early humans were the new and unexpected factor. Around 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens appeared and gradually spread across the world. Humans brought a threat no giant animal had ever faced before: intelligence and tools. Unlike predators, humans could cooperate in groups, craft weapons of stone, wood, and later bronze and iron. We could strategize, set traps, and use fire to control the environment. For a mammoth weighing tons, a saber-toothed Smilodon or an armored Glyptodon, coordinated human hunting was still a deadly threat. Archaeological evidence shows that many giant animals were systematically hunted. Mammoth bones bear cut marks from stone tools. Megatherium fossils have been found near human dwellings. And Mastodon hunting camps in North America proved that people once coordinated to bring down entire herds. Some scientists argue that it was precisely the combination of climate change and human activity, a double pressure, that doomed the giants. As the climate shifted, populations shrank. As humans spread and hunted, the remaining groups could not recover. This has been called an evolutionary trap. The very size that was once their strength became their downfall. Giant animals needed vast amounts of food, reproduced slowly, and relied on wide, stable habitats. When the world changed too quickly, they could not keep up. In contrast, smaller, more adaptable animals, deer, wolves, or even humans, survived with ease. Though extinct, the giants left a lasting legacy. They shaped ecosystems, influenced the evolution of other species, and even impacted human development. The challenges they posed, from surviving Smilodon's ambush to hunting mammoths for food, sharpened our intelligence, teamwork, and creativity. Today, when we look at the fossils they left behind, we see not just bones but stories of evolution, of nature's power, and of life's constant change. The giant mammals that once ruled Earth are gone, but their legacy still echoes in fossils, in myths, and in our imagination. Earth never stops changing, and today's rulers may become tomorrow's legends. The epic of life has never ended, and we are only another chapter in its endless book.